Okay, prologue. Johnson Space Center, Houston, Texas. Only the dead silence of space replied for the crew. Station, Houston, the tech said. How do you read? A tonal chirp like the one from a tiny bird followed the broken sound waves from the digital speakers throughout Johnson Space Center's mission control. The sound was a carryover from an old technology that was no longer produced by the radios organically. Now, the artificial Kindar tone bookended all transmissions. This tone echoed across dozens of blank faces. Again, the radio pinged, but this time it was followed by a thick Japanese accent. Station Scuba, come in. Everyone in mission control listened, holding their breath. Still, there was no answer. Then the radio pulsed from Germany. Station Munich. Then more. Station Montreal, over. Station Moscow. Korolev, Moscow, the Russian Center for Control of Flight. Known by American astronauts as SOUP, Korolev was the sister to Houston for control of the International Space Station. Station Moscow, we are transmitting in the blind. If you hear us, we've lost link to station and cannot control thruster. Be advised, orbital creep is approaching critical altitude. Station Moscow, come in station. Jordan Devine sat at her desk in mission control, perched on the second floor of Building 30 at Johnson Space Center, a tiny cog in the international machine of space exploration, a very tiny cog. Each of the 20 long desks stacked with computer monitors handled a different area of the station. Jordan tucked her hair behind her ear and focused on the monitors so hard her eyes stung. She handled audio and video, and among the important problems growing for the ISS, audio and video took priority for the flight director. He needed to see his astronauts, hear their voices. She furiously tapped away at her keyboard, rifling through the endless lines of code. Devine, the flight director said, projecting his voice over the room. The flight director was an astronaut himself and the one responsible for the ISS in orbit. He was known to all by his call sign, Remy. Jordan spun in her chair. Sir, Devine, we need something. Yes, sir, working on it, Jordan said. Well, work faster. Remy remained stationary, staring at the opposite wall full of giant digital screens streaming the orbit of the ISS around the globe. The orbital path fell, displayed by a colored line playing in a looped graphic, blinking from green to white, then to red. Jordan leaned into her keyboard, fingers keeping pace with the dizzying speed of her cast gray eyes. An eagerness preceded the last rap of her hands on the keys. I've got a feed. Audio or video, Remy said. Jordan clicked her mouse and lifted her gaze to the big screens on the far wall of the control room. Both, she said. A crackling hum filled mission control as the audio came through. Then a live video feed flickered on from inside the Destiny laboratory and the Unity module, connecting the US and Russian orbital sections. It was muted in dark shades of red and slipped into a black screen at irregular intervals before finally establishing a continuous live stream. Everyone glued their eyes to the screen. Gasps settled across the room like a falling tide. The flight director turned away and whispered into his headset. Remy spoke to the back room, or executive NASA leadership. It was a one-way flurry of information without reply. Then Jordan stood, covering her mouth with a trembling hand as the video resolution tightened. Oh my God. The International Space Station. The internal lights of the space station flickered and dimmed, twitching a slow death. With every spark from a bundle of split wiring, the station's lights guttered. The constant gentle drone of the station was interrupted only by the radio, churning clipped static as the station flew over the horizon, away from the frequency's reach. Station Moscow, station Moscow. A single eggshell-colored extravehicular mobility unit glove moved through the Unity module. It wasn't flying, it was falling off the edge of the Earth as the station executed its orbit at over 17,000 miles per hour. Spinning like a ballerina, the glove impacted a padded wall, sending it twirling on its axis through a swarm of floating orb-like marbles and into the Harmony module, the heart of the ISS. The burgundy-colored spheres stretched and blobbed. Some clung to one another, formed larger blobs, while others multiplied and stained the glove red. That's what blood does in outer space. The woman hooked her feet under the rungs on a wall of the module, holding herself in place while in the zero-gravity environment. She took a deep breath and brushed the wet nodules away from her face as if they were flies. Her cheeks were smattered with blood and tissue and tiny fragments of debris. The circular window only made it worse. Without it, she wouldn't have ever known the station was rotating. But every 2 seconds, the light reflected off the Earth's surface and flashed over her almond eyes, strobing a reminder of the station's motion hurtling out of control through orbit. The radio continued to crackle, but the woman continued to ignore it. Station Moscow. She wore an EMU, but the helmet and gloves had been removed. Bloody handprints marked the suit and partially covered the red and white green of the Iranian flag on her shoulder. A Velcro patch on her chest read her name, written in both Farsi and English. Mojda Moj Zahedi. Her eyes locked in on the computer screen as she fought back the flutter in her stomach and the bile rising in the back of her throat. Vertigo. She could throw up at any moment, but there wasn't time for that now. There was only time to complete her task. She wiped away the beads of sweat that pooled on her skin. Moj released the Russian Makarov 9mm pistol from her hand, and it gently drifted away before the stiff corpse of a man in a navy blue flight suit bounced off the wall, a bloody orb growing over his body like an inflating balloon. She nudged him along and returned to her work, fingers jabbing at a breakneck pace. She worked her way through the station systems, life support failing. Active thermal control system leak warning. Station temperature critical. Orbit degraded. Orbital decay critical. Warning, fire thrusters. Warning, warning. Moj muttered in Farsi, then Arabic, then Russian, before closing her eyes and slamming a fist into the keyboard. The station shook. Moj screamed something in Farsi. Houston. The video cut to a black screen. Connection lost. What? Remy said. What the hell just happened? He paced the floor of Mission Control. Get me that video feed back, Devine. Yes, sir, Jordan said. It wasn't a live feed like I originally thought. There's a delay. How long of a delay are we talking here? Maybe an hour or more, she guessed. I need that feed yesterday. Jordan Devine sunk back to her desk, staring at the computer, shaking her head. No, she said. Is the station over the horizon? Remy said. Switch to Germany. No, she said louder. No, it's not the feed. It's what? Jordan clicked her mouse, and the wall of the monitors in Mission Control now displayed the orbit of the ISS. A warning tone continued in the background, synced with a flashing red banner across the screen. Warning, a digital voice repeated. Orbit degraded. Fire thrusters. Warning. Orbit degraded. Fire thrusters. The entire station, Jordan said. It's just gone.